But for everybody else, just let me know if you have any questions. I don't mind if you raise your hand during the presentation. And then I'll have some things too that will pass around so you can have some hands-on during the presentation. I do have some family here. My sister Ann is here, so she might be helping a little bit. And then I have some of my cousin Nellie and Jackie and baby Jay. And my daughter is in the back. So it's, thank you all for being here. We'll get started on this. And hello to everybody on Zoom. So I'm very happy to be here to talk about traditional cedar bark basket weaving. And thank you to the Rosmond family for allowing this to happen and to occur here. I've been to some of them before, so I'm really honored to be a presenter here tonight. So this here, I'm not sure how much you can see, but this is a cedar hat. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my cedar hat to bring. I was going to bring this. This one shows some of the cedar bark here that's coming off the trees. And then on the other side, it's my cousin Julia. And this is when we're removing the outer bark, but we'll go through a little bit more here on the slides. My space and arrows aren't going. There we go. So next month will be about when we're going to start gathering cedar, and we have people here from Q&R. Chris, he'll be the lead this year, I believe, and he'll work with our tribal member Mike Estrada, and it's also coordinated by Garrett Rasmussen, who's a TFW program manager, and he's been overseeing this program for many years. So if you haven't seen it, this is what it looks like when we're actually out there in the woods with the, you can see the fresh part of the tree over here. This just indicates where we have already pulled off some of the cedar, and then this is actively showing the strip that's coming out. And that is a real exciting time, you know, because you're going along and you're pulling it, and you're just going farther back, and you're going farther back, and then it's not breaking. So then you usually have somebody who's more agile who can help you and like jump back and forth and get it to come off. That's usually not me. And the other part about getting the cedar bark is we're really careful to only take a third off the tree unless it's something that we know that an area is going to be harvested, and then we have permission to take the cedar bark off the entire tree. But even when we have permission, it still doesn't feel right to a lot of people. They don't like to take it. Some people don't like to take it all off, just out of respect for the tree and the gift that we're giving. But if you take off a third, it doesn't kill the tree. And if you're ever out there and if you look up, sometimes you'll see patches where we have gathered cedar off that tree before. And that's really neat, just to see the way it kind of grows back a little bit over it. Not completely, but a little bit. So once we have people from the crew that come out and bring us these strips here, they usually bring them all over here. Then we have the people who come out to get the cedar bark. You'll grab one of these strips, and then you start taking the inner bark off. And here's some rolls which Ann will help pass around. So you can see this is what we come home with. This was last year. And I just want to point out, like, this is one, I brought this one on purpose just to show like these knots in the bark. Those are the ones like when we're making our bark, we usually just cut that out because it's not usable when you're making your basket bottoms. So everybody has different methods on how you're doing it. Some people are a little faster, some are a little slower. It just depends on how comfortable you are with the knife as you're going along and taking the outer bark off. And as you notice on here, all of the outer bark is removed. Some of it we've gotten over the years, like it might leave little patches on, but it kind of discolors the cedar. So we really do try to get as much off as possible. And this is my favorite way to start. I like to just get a really good start between the outer bark and the inner, and just kind of work my way back and forth in between it to get the rolls. And this one here shows like one of the rolls, kind of like ones that are being passed around. Okay. So this part here, it's good timing for Katie to come in, because this is my appreciation slide that shows that this first one here is Frank Hansen. He was a big part of ONRC for a number of years, but before that, he was a school superintendent in La Push. So before Q&R would bring people out, Frank would coordinate it with the tribal school, and they would go out and go gather cedar. And then after that, Mel started working, I believe, with Garrett for the first time that you guys started going out to coordinate efforts with Bill Peach here at Rainier. He was also one of our first partners. We started to coordinate areas for us to go out. And I didn't get a picture of Frank Dyer, but Mel Manuel was the first director that we worked with at Q&R. Then we had Frank Dyer for about another 17 years. And thank goodness he's back to help oversee and keep working with our treaty rights. And Katie Kruger's up here at the top, and she's also in person, and she's also the photographer. So a lot of these pictures that I have on here are from Katie, because she's been great at archiving and documenting our process. And the one right underneath Courtney, the Bobson, is Perry Black. He's been a tech who helped for so long, but that's a muscle that you need out in the woods to pull the cedar bark back out. A little story about that. You really got to know the difference between your trees when you're out there. Sonny Penn was out there with his mom Eileen, and so there was a group of us, and we were out there, and we're like, well, we have the machete and the hatchet, so we went over and made our little marks, and along the side we're trying to pull it and get it out, and it wasn't going, and we kept trying, and there was like 3 of us who were trying, and Sonny comes out with all of his cedar over his shoulder, kind of like Bill, and he just looked at us and he said, what are you guys doing trying to peel a spruce tree? So usually I have people identify trees for me. And so these are the beautiful rolls that what we go home with. And for people who've been out there, you know that smell, you know that feel of that cedar, like the cedar that's going around, and you know how dry it is, but when you're out there, it is so incredibly beautiful and supple, and it just smells so good. But once you come home, it's very important to take these rolls, and hopefully it's a sunny day, and then you can leave them out for about a good week or so before you bring it inside. And then usually I just have them on my kitchen table, which my husband loves, until they dry completely. And then after that, then you can store them. And generally they say it's a year, but usually like around November or December, I can start using the cedar that I have, because if you use it right now, it's just it just needs the time to rest and to cure when it first comes off the tree. So then we've been out in the woods, we did all of our cedar, we left all the outer bark out there, we cut off all the knots, and now we're ready to start preparing. For years, I just used like a needle to strip my cedar, which I believe my sister's preferred method. I like to use this jerry stripper now, and that will give me these nice even strips. So we soak these big rolls, and then I run them through there, and then I'll have my bundles. And this one over here shows this is just, when they first come out, they're still pretty thick. Like if you can feel in that cedar, they feel pretty thick. They're not like the size that you can use like when you're actually gonna start weeding, they'll whip. So then they have to go through and be thinned out again before you can put them in here. This is where I sorted them by length so that they could be ready for when I'm ready to do a project. And I think Vanna is helping with some more of this. And, oh yeah, she's going around with some, that's a dyed cedar. So after that, you have your cedar, you're ready to go, and you're ready to make your basket bottom. When I get to this point, I always have like a moment of appreciation. I'm holding my cedar because so much has gone into it. I feel like I would trade it ounce for gold. That's the work that I put into it, when it takes that much labor to get to that point to even start to make the basket bottom. And this is just one, and this is the easiest one, where you just go like under and over, then you do the opposite on the next. And then that's one where it went around one time to kind of lock it, but generally we do 3, but each weaver has their own preference on how they do that. And this shows the different ways that you can make the basket bottoms. This one here is a graduation cap. And this one, that one shows the over and under type, but this one that I'll pass around is the ladder design. And it's kind of like a step, because you can, you'll see the pattern on it as it goes up, kind of like stairs or a step. And that one, with the remote, it's gonna be like a shopping bag type style one, where it's rectangle. This one on the top shows how it turns round. So, on the corners, instead of doing one at a time, we went across two, and that helped make it to the round shape. And this one here, if you'll notice, the basket bottom was made and it went around 3 times. And then another strip of cedar was added, and that also helped to make the round shape. And I'll touch base on that one there on a future slide that's coming up. This is me and my sister when we first started learning how to weave. Those young girls. Yes. Or just a few years back. No, I started weaving in 1997. My daughter Gloria's back there, but in 5 years I had 3 kids. And so the tribal school was doing weaving one night a week, and that was my one night a week to leave the house, and I thoroughly appreciated it. So that was a great time, again, at the tribal school. Had that opportunity, and I'm thankful that Frank Hansen spearheaded that project to keep it going. And my first teacher during that time was Lillian Pullen. I also had Leela Mae Morgan-Roth, Norma, one of Lillian's daughters, and Sharon Pullen. This shows the basket going up. So once we had the flat bottom, this is just different baskets of it started to go up, and this one right here, you might be able to see on some of the other baskets, it's 3. So we call them the 3Cs because there's 3 strands, and as you're pulling it, it helps to tighten the basket and have it start to go up. As my Aunt Life said, I'm not making a plate. So these are designs. Jay Powell is a linguist who has worked for the tribe since the 50s. And he told me that baskets started having designs around the time that tourists started coming to La Push. And so that the ladies who were making the baskets put the designs on the baskets, which were what was around our area: whales, birds, canoes, the Nootka rose, the wild rose, wolf masks. And then on the right, that's the graph paper, which we use to graph out some of the patterns until you have them memorized. Anne has a lot of them memorized. I basically have whale, birds, and canoes memorized. So this shows something else with what we do with our cedars. We make these basket necklaces, and this is where the fun and the creativity comes into basket weaving, because the weaver gets to choose what they're going to do. And so just for example, if you look at this canoe, you know, you have the canoe with the bottom part that's red and the hats are red. And then you go over here, and then on you see here, the paddles are in the water. And then if you look at this one, the paddles are up, they're holding up. So that's just one part to show. And then the top up there shows the waves. And that was a design that Anne came up with as well. And she made all of these. These were for my daughter's name giving that we had. And she made 100 of these basket necklaces. And many of the people here who helped feed them all. I'm not a beater, but I made them and the family feeded them. One's up to Jackie and that one. And yeah, so she made them all in Arizona and then mailed them up to us. Here's hats, Gloria. My daughter Gloria is going to be the model back there. Which hat do you have? Is that the one I made? So that was my first hat that I made, and she'll pass that around. And that was probably made like in 2004, 2005 timeframe. And after that, I said I'd never make them again. Well, then we had her name giving, and then we ended up making quite a few for her giveaway. And then this one here just kind of shows the process on a mini version of the hat, like where you have the mold, and then you have the pins up on the top, and each time you go around, you put these little T-pins in there to keep that row of cedar there secure before you go add on the next row of cedar below it. this was the cedar hat class that I did when I made the hat. So this was, that's what I'm thinking, it's around 2004, 2005. What do you think, Nellie? I mean, look at Gloria there too. I mean, there's when she was young there, but we did this all down in La Push. My aunt Viola Reevy and my cousin Marie were some of the teachers there, and you know, my grandma Marion was there, and then some other tribal members from La Push. But that was a really fun time, and that's part of like what it is when we all just gather and sit and talk, and you know, Sue Payne would be there and getting us our tea and all that. It's just a fun socializing time just to get out and weave. So when you're doing your cedar and you're making all of your strips, you get some really thin ones that you can't use to make your bottom because they're so thin and they're not going to be support your basket. So that's when I have that. That's when it's time to make some cedar roses. The other one, this isn't the same style, but my sister will pass these around because she does handles out of her cedar that's too thin, and then I do some cedar roses. And then once the roses are done, and you know, there's so many different sizes, you know, so I have like a really big one or little, you know, little ones. Just depends on what the cedar width was when I was making the basket, and then I can use them to adorn and put on our baskets. The other pass around this headband too that also shows the cedar roses, and that headband was made by my grandma Mary, and she made for Gloria. These baskets, their wabbit baskets are Hiaquat, and these are the ones that back when there used to be parties that we would go to, before there was all the dishes and paper plates and all of that you'd go to these community events, the lady of the house would have her basket, and in the basket would be everything you would need for the meal. It would have your dishes and your silverware or napkins. So you would have that, and then after you're done, you put them back in your basket and bring them home. This one was made by my cousin Nellie. And this one was made by my sister Ann. These ones on here, that was the first high pot basket that I had made. And this is one that was at the Burke Museum that was made by Beatrice Black. I don't really make shopping bags, but this is my sister Ann's specialty. Shopping bags were a basket that had a working purpose. So when the ladies would go to Pope's, you know, that's what they'd say forks, because there's no R's and Quileute. So when they go to Pope's, they bring their shopping bag with them, and that's what they would use to put whatever groceries or sundries that they needed in town in that basket. This one over here on this side that says migration, that's currently at the Chinook Pharmacy, and that's a big basket that she had made. This basket, I think, was at the Seattle Art Museum. And Anne had took that pattern and wrapped it out on that wrapping paper. And then she's done that design many times, but this one over here on the right, we did a joint project on that one. And we did that one together. So taking the baskets that we already know, the same patterns we've used for like 10 or 15 years. Well, then if we see some of the Quileute baskets that are in a museum, we'll wrap them out and we'll start incorporating them into our own baskets that we make now. The Burke Museum, I kind of had a meeting with them that turned out to be really beneficial. I was at a tribal agent affiliated tribe of Northwest Indians, and I talked to a lady who was there from the Burke Museum. So my first visit there, it's well, here, let me just read what the post is. She's gonna move that part for me. That's good. Okay. So this is something I had on my social media that said, a visit to the Burke Museum today. I laughed at the tricky little things I noticed the weavers did on their baskets. I cried holding some baskets.
I learned more about Quileute baskets, tops, bottoms, adding in cedar, handles, and designs. I listened to extremely brief info, if any, of the baskets that left me wanting to hear more. These photos are a little peek at my day. If you have one basket or a collection, and this is, if anybody here has any, please write a few words about it, preferably on an acid-free paper with pencil, because otherwise it can go into your basket. Don't ever use pen or marker. And I made a mental note of the type of paper when I heard the Burke staff talking about it today. And stick it in the basket. Your children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren will be thankful for the history of the basket. I end the day filled with admiration and appreciation of the history I touched today. So walking into the Burke Museum, and I just thought, okay, I'm gonna go look at some baskets. Well, I didn't, oh, and this one here is why I copied that one that I said before, where you did the bottom and then I did that row underneath it. So this is what it looks like when you walk in. There's 7 shelves high, and the baskets can go, depending on the size, I mean, like 3 or 4 back. And you have to wear special gloves and you have to have clearance to go back and look at that area. But when they open it up, because these are kind of like those library ones where you crank the handle and they'll open up and you'll be able to see them. It's just overwhelming to look at these baskets that were made by Quileute ancestors. And even though I don't know their names and I don't know where they're from, I know that they taught their daughters who taught their daughters who got to me on how to do this. It's a wonderful time. I think I went there twice with you. Twice. Yes, and I've been there 4 times total, and I would love to go again. Yes. You can never spend enough time with these old baskets. They're just like your friends. There was one that was particularly amazing that I didn't see on my first visits. There was a family who had a store in Clallam Bay, and they abruptly left, packed up their stuff, and they had it in a trunk. Well, I was holding a basket. Did you move your basket and one of your baskets? Which you had to get one over there. Oh yeah, the one that's over there. It was about that size, and I was looking at it, and I was like, wow, this is really nice because it was so vibrant. It was just like something that we had just made, and they said that basket was made in 1945. And I just put it back down for a second, and I couldn't believe that I was touching something that was so beautiful and priceless. And it was still whales, birds, and canoes, so it's just really touching just to see that what we're doing now is still what was being done, 80 years ago. These are baskets that are at the Burke that I thought were really interesting, that I hadn't seen on our baskets. Like, I still don't know what the strip is for in the middle, and I've never seen anybody do that. So I'm curious about that. One day I'll try to figure it out. And also they used sweetgrass and also looks like bear grass, which the reason why we use rafters so much is because our areas have been cut off, where we would gather these materials. And so seeing that is just a part of that. We don't have that, I don't want to say luxury, but we don't have that ability because we don't have those resources right now. And then this one here in the middle, that top one, shows that top part was, instead of sewing the basket down, it's braided with cedar. So that's one that I would like to spend some more time with to see, like, how did you guys figure that out? And then the bottom one, they sewed the top down, but on the bottom, they have like a little row that they added, which I think is kind of like a stand. And I've never seen that. And those are just kind of like goals, what I want to accomplish one day, and still do some of these techniques that I have seen on the Quileute baskets.
Did you say that bottom right one has a lining in it too? You
Yes.
can't see it, but it's tricky.
Yes.
Can you go back to that last one?
Maybe. Yes.
This is the bottom right you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, with that little stand underneath the bottom.
I can't figure it out.
I don't know, maybe it was
And also the bottom shows that stair design, that ladder, which is something I never usually did before. I usually just did the 1 and 1. But when I saw so many that were on the baskets like that at the Burke Museum, I try to do many of mine that way. So this is one too that, I've seen the baskets in La Push, but when I was looking at this one here in the Burke, I thought, okay, I gotta make an effort and I gotta learn how to do that scallop top. And so I did. Glad you're here, MJ. This is his grandma did this hat, Mary Kay. Mary Kay Leka did this, and this is my honor to the master weavers who have just extreme talent for weaving. And just this hat started off right here with this little bit of cedar up here. And then as she comes down, she has to add the cedar, bring it back in, and then come back out. And it's all woven with cedar and with bear grass. That is an amazing piece of art. And I can't remember if it was Rosetta or Lisa was asking me, they were wondering where that basket went because they saw this one being made. And I'm like, well, it's in the Burke Museum. And then the one over here on the right was made by Mary's mother, Leela Fisher. And that one here is, I really like that basket. I liked it a lot because it seems like in the, I don't know, the 70s and 80s, just about every house you went to had one of these baskets and the napkins were in there. And so this is what I got for Christmas for my sister. Yes. This is my favorite basket of all time. This is made by Beatrice Black. She was Quileute, but she ended up spending a lot of her life in Quinault. There's just so many things to admire about this basket. Just the perfection, the technique, her symmetry between the top and the bottom. Everything on this is perfect. She has that perfect scallop top. But I've noticed when you're weaving, when you're making baskets, you always have this one row in between your spaces. Well, here she didn't on the bear grass. She just had the bear grass, and then as she's weaving, she just inserted another row of bear grass, which kind of like blew my mind because I've never seen that before. But that's one that I definitely would like to make one day. I wouldn't be able to do the bear grass. The thing about bear grass is on a lot of the older baskets, you'll see bear grass. Well, it's really over harvested right now. And so where you can see how wide the bear grass is, well, there's been times that the Quileute tribe has been gifted bear grass that has been confiscated from people who were gathering illegally. It is so thin. It is just probably half the size of what you see on these baskets. And they'll give you these great big long bundles, but this whole part of here is all wispy and you can't do anything with them because they're so thin. And then over here, it's kind of wider on the base. So you end up with like one little piece of bear grass you can use.
Can bear grass be farmed, or can you raise a bear grass crop, or?
Courtney, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Cathy and I had many discussions about this many years ago. Kind of spurring from these conversations that we were having of Cathy and others saying like, bear grass is over harvested, we can't find it. And so I went on this couple-year journey to figure out how to grow it, and talking to a lot of people who try to grow it commercially, and it's really challenging. And it's hard to get the seeds to germinate. It's really hard to plant it and have it take. And it takes a long time for it to get to a large enough size to harvest. So I guess the short answer is it's possible, but we found it to be very challenging.
Yeah. Not a quick crop.
No, and also, there's a lot to be said for people who spent their life weaving. And sometimes, like my other joke about seeing like these big baskets, it's like, well, it's long winters and no TV, so you're just gonna make a basket, right? But this bear grass, it's if you don't know how to use it, you're gonna cut yourself. You're gonna get so many paper cuts from bear grass because it's so sharp. So this was a name giving that we had, for my daughter, He'aka was the name that she received. So this one here, we all wore our cedar hats and we went up, we did a traditional invite down at Tahola. Yeah, we were down at Tahola. I was gonna say we went to Queens, but we didn't go to Queens. Oh, yes. So we did that, and then, just, this is one, a shout out to Nellie's daughter, Julia. She made this hat back here for, her significant other, Alex there. She made it like in 4 days, right? Because we were doing all this work. We were making headbands, we were making belts, we were doing the hats. This is how we do the headbands, and Alex decided he wanted a hat, so Julia would have worked so hard to finish that hat. And that's it. Question?
Yeah, it's interesting, the patterns on these things are so refined and so spectacular. What sort of dye do you use to do this color? Do you do that after the basket is made, or do you do it as you're weaving?
As we're weaving it, we do that. And right now, just about everybody I know, we purchased the raffia already colored, but with the cedar bark, I passed around a couple. Okay, yeah, this is one that, just in the last like 3 or 4 years, I've learned how to dye it myself. So I'll dye the cedar bark, but, the raffia we usually buy, already done. But that being said, there are different tribes, like, I think it was at Seven Cedars or Jamestown, you can see some of their hats that they make. They make the hat and then they kind of like paint on a design or something, right? Yes.
One time when I was collecting seed with my dad and other people, I was getting cedar bark out because one of the cedar was stuck on it. I like bumped right there, but I had to swing it against it. There's a tiny creek right there, so I had to swing over the creek on the cedar over there.
You do, that is one of the things, because it doesn't come off sometimes and you have to swing back and forth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Until a little while later. Good thing I didn't fall into the creek.
And it is kind of a loud snap when it breaks, isn't it? I mean, like you'll be there, we'll be like gathering cedar, and then we're like, oh, there's a snap. Just hearing it come across. I do have one video, if you can help me.
Oh, yes.
There's a video, this was made in partnership, with Rainier that kind of acknowledges the working relationships we've had with them and their help that they did. And, Mike Lovett was one who, helps and still helps out. Okay. One other thing too, which I believe Garrett and Chris do, is they check on the cedar bark before we go out, just to kind of like a test field, because if it's too pitchy, you can't go.
Is really prevalent within this community is this culture of your word is your bond. We'll donate some of our wood for traditional salmon banks. We've donated cedar logs or chunks in the past for different carving projects that they've had. Just a number of different things that the forest can provide.
The forest is extremely important to the Quileute tribe. There's so many resources that the old people used, and if I wanted to do a fish bake, I could get a hold of somebody at my natural resources. They contact right here, and somebody from the natural resources department would go and get a truck full of alder.
This is the cedar bark that is taken from the tree, and we can do different rolls depending on the size of the tree and how tall it goes. There are really big factors. I've been able to go to the Burke Museum to see the foodie baskets that they have, and you go in there and you just see all their shelves, and you're looking at this, and it's just like, it says my history. It's what we still are doing to preserve what has been the hands of many different weavers for generations.
It's my job to manage the resources of this tribe in the best manner that we can to ensure that those resources are there for what they call the next 7 generations. This project was a project that we did in cooperation with Rainier. This is a situation where there were two perched culverts, and this was identified as the largest blockage, and they were blocking 7.5 miles of salmon habitat. So we got with Rainier, looked at securing funding, and being able to start implementing the project up to that.
The only petroglyph that the Quileute Nation has in its possession. Rainier, the state of Washington, and the Quileute tribe all collaborated together to be able to lift it up and out of the riverbank.
Relationship with garden over the years with the tribe. It's just been a very warm and friendly partnership that we've had.
One of the things to mention about the baskets is, when you're weaving, it's showing me something like, when you're in like a good heart and when you're in a good space, you know, to weave. If you're trying to force weaving, if you're having like negative thoughts or, you know, things aren't going well, that's not the time to weave. You know, your basket will, it picks up on that energy. Like it can really get like tight or it can get loose or it just doesn't look right. And so it's generally, you know, that's what's taught is like, if you're not good here and here, then don't pick up your basket. There's also times like if people aren't weaving, they'll say, why aren't you weaving? Pick up your basket, it's crying for you, you know, and so then you'll weave. But if you find like if you're weaving and this wasn't done and like I had made a mistake, they would say, take it down. And so then you take it back down and you go back and it's so hard to take it down. You know, I think it's harder to take it down than to weave because you're going back and forth. So what I learned from my Grandma Marion is just, you know, if you make a mistake, just throw it in the wood stove. Don't even worry about it. Do you cut yours up?
I cut mine. I cut it up and I throw it away.
Yeah.
I don't have to anymore, but back in the early days, because I don't want to pull it out of the garbage and finish something that's not good, because then my name goes out. People see that, so I cut it up and I throw it away.
Hey, Katie.
I just like to say, because you reminded me, I took the basket class as an auditor and I went in college after Quileute for like 2 or 3 times, and I nicknamed myself the Rip Out Queen. I was making a lot of mistakes. And I also wanted to show people, Cathy and I used to office in 1998, and she made this basket for me, and it says KK 498 CS. And this is when she was just learning that it's incredibly well done because it's very straight up and down and very tightly woven. And it's really very fine first basket, so you can't be rid of.
Yes, and I think I probably had a lot of teachers helping me at that time, but one thing that's important to notice on the one that Katie has there and this one here, you can see the difference on the tops. And there was I'll pass these around so you can look at these and the differences. So when I was doing that one, Rusty Black, he was one of Rosie Black's sons, but he came in and I was doing my basket and I was folding it down like the one that Katie has in the one here. And he just leaned over to me and he said, Quileute sewed the tops of their baskets. And I said, oh yeah, I said, I learned this from Pam and Leela May, you know, this is why I'm doing it. And he leaned over, Quileute sewed the tops of their baskets. And I'm like, yeah, and this is the way I'm doing it. I'm practicing this way. And he's like, Quileute. And I'm like, okay. And he said, Pam and Leela had a husband in Niabe. And he said, that's the way that macaws do the top of the basket. So that's probably one of the last ones I ever did that way because now I know we have to sew the tops of our baskets. I will say also, men can be some of the most critical about baskets. Jake's pen, I had a basket and it wasn't even. My design wasn't even. And he said, I'm gonna go ask, what's his, Mickey down in Quinault. I'm gonna go ask my sister Mickey or my cousin Mickey how to fix it, so it's not all wavy like that. And he came back and he said, yes, he goes, you need to like fix it as you go along, either push it up or pull it down so you'll have it nice and even. And then, Nellie's, well, I guess he's my uncle too, but it was really Nellie and Jackie's Uncle Howard. He came and looked at one of my baskets in my office, he looked at it, he put it down and he goes, at least you're trying. So, there's that.
But both of those guys, their moms were master weavers.
Yes.
Master weavers, not just weavers, they were masters.
Yes, yes, question?
Yeah, I have a question on your hats.
Mhm.
So, if they're tied open, they're probably fairly waterproof. But my question would be in relationship to that, when they get wet, when they're out in the weather, does the cedar swell and make it tighter and less water or waterproof?
No, I don't think so. Let me see Gloria's hat. The one that I need for Gloria, the ones that we have more now, these are more, I want to know, like sun hats, or like when people are out, it's more for this brim. There is, one of the earlier pictures, they showed I had a hat, or maybe it was on that right here one. It was a double weave. So they had this one, and this one here where it's mostly with these cedar spaces, it was all woven with cedar. And it was actually double weave, so the outside hat had one, and they had another lining inside.
So they were used for both weather and for.
Yes, and that one was, yeah, TJ Jackson, and so she's one of the ones that I know, he does that rain hat with a double layer, but that's a lot of cedar, and when you're weaving with cedar, kind of, you really put your finger a little bit, the more you do it. So, I believe so. I believe they last a very long time. Yes, I would, you know anybody who has one of those rain hats? Yeah, those ones you probably use more frequently, but like if my hat wasn't used for a while, I'd probably get like some kind of like little duster, or I'd get like a water bottle and spray it and kind of like gently wipe it down. And also, if you have a basket, don't put it in a window where there's sun, because it's gonna fade all your designs off. Yes.
Cathy, you were talking earlier about when you're making a basket, and having your head and your heart in harmony. Wondering, when you go to the Bird Museum and you look at older baskets, can you get a feeling for the state of mind that people were in when they made them? If that's evolved as our culture's gotten more timeless.
I think like it's, like especially just from the ones that I knew that were from like a generation or two above me, I'm gonna say that they were in a good spot. When we would go to Leela's house down in Ho River, she'd be sitting there and she'd be talking and chatting and laughing and weaving, so in like our weaving classes that we have, there's usually like laughter and people there, and it's just a really good time. So from those baskets, obviously I have that sense of awe. And I know Ann had it too, because we both just kind of sit there and cry for a while, because you're weeping for your history and what we lost and what we don't know and what we can learn. There's just so much that's there. And I just feel like there's so much, I guess, history, power, everything all in one when you're touching one of those baskets. And the Bird Museum has been very good. I've gotten a couple of grants from them. One of them was to do the Wobbit baskets, and we were going to do classes, but then COVID hit. So, and that was also the same year that my Aunt Vi died. So I got to do the kits, and the Bird gave me permission to reclass, or to repurpose the grant to give it out to make the Wobbits. So that was great, because Nellie made hers, Marie made hers, I made mine. There's somebody back there who's still working on hers. Did you finish your Wobbit? Yeah.
But I was gonna say too, like Cathy and when I needed her the most, we were able to get together. So there are a few things. Her, I needed her. It was Yeah. She can. She always does. So, but what, you know, what's the best? Is. Mom is there, because she needs that. Be able to, you know, open. I can do that. That's an area. I really feel. Look into your. This has their own. So you just do that, you just go. That's what's really.
And that's really good because weaving isn't something that you can force. It's not something that you're just gonna sit down and weave whether you feel like it or not. You have to be ready to weave. And sometimes I'll make a basket bottom and I'll look, and if you're not sure what it's gonna be, like if I don't know what I'm gonna put on it, then I'll just put it aside. And it was really neat because Roy Black told me that his mom, Rosie Black, who was also a very accomplished weaver, that she would kind of think about that too. And like she was like, she would say, I'm not sure, and she put out a piece of butcher paper on her table and kind of map out what she wanted to do. Any other questions? Yeah.
In art form, you pre-visualize something in your mind. Would you weave, gather people that weave there, do you pre-visualize in your mind? Or did you draw it out or create it, or do you just, as it comes, let it kind of flow and?
It can go some ways. It can go that way. Like I know for sure, like I'm gonna make a shopping bag, or I know for sure I'm gonna make a certain type of basket, then yes, I'm gonna do that. But other times, like, I'll just be figuring out what I'm gonna do and then weave as you go, or, you know, like Anne has that too, like when she's weaving, like sometimes she'll just use whatever colors right next to her, and that's what she started as.
Sometimes I'm lazy, and whatever color is right here, that's the one I'm gonna use. Where's my basket that has a deer on it?
So you kind of go with the flow of it.
Pretty much you do, you just say, what does it feel like today, or what do you want to do today? What is it? You know, what's gonna be, you know, or what color do you want? You know, what color do you go for? And that's what you do, you know, whatever, what color feels right today, you know? That's important. What do you want your colors to say, or your designs to say? It doesn't matter what you're doing. You know, could be anything. What do you want to do? Do you want to do a bird? Do you want to do a whale? Do you want to do a canoe? Or you just want to do something else? You know, you want to do symbols? Doesn't matter. You just say, what is your mind, body, your spirit want to do? You know, so it's not really that, but you want to do it. You'll go.
When I started this one, I knew I was gonna put on the deer. And then I knew this was gonna, I made it wide enough, so then I put on the wolf mask, and then I put this on. And then I was like, oh, I got room for 2 deer. Now there's room in here, so I put on a bird. And that's what I do. I don't map it out. I just start counting. And once I get up to here, actually now it's gonna go faster because the counting takes a long time to make sure it's all even.
She's a very good counter.
We joke about that, 'cause we're always counting.
3.
You're like, you're a good counter. And if I have room, I put more in, because I'm crazy like that. Oh, there's a gap here, there's another bird. And, oh, look, I don't want to end my basket here, so I put this on. I just don't stop.
So.
How long would it, or how long did it? This one took me 3 days.
Yeah.
Yes, I was hoping that she would, I was hoping that if she was here, she probably could have easily done both of these while I was talking. That's how fast Ann is. And one thing about her, like, here's mine, one pattern, one pattern, one pattern. This is Ann's. So I worked at Ocean Park Resort in La Push for about 6 years, and this was before I was really starting to weave. But you know, there's could be a lot of downtime in the office, and I would just like look at baskets and look at the bottoms, and I would study them and see. So you know, generally, you know, like I know Gloria, Jackie, and Nellie could come up here and say whose baskets these all are, all the ones that we have, that you can just, you know, pick it up and you can say, oh yeah, that's Kathy's, or you know, like, oh yeah, that's Marie's, you know, that you can just tell.
There was a comment online that I just wanted to read out loud from Linda Offit.
Oh yes. Hey,
And just
Linda.
said, thank you to Kathy and the Quileute ladies. I have several Kathy and Ann baskets, very much appreciate it.
Linda's awesome. Hey, Linda. Yes. Is that it? Anything you want to add, Garrett?
No, I always appreciate your names baskets, and they've gifted me. But I have noticed that some of
And he's with his wife Nicole, who I worked with for a number of years, about 8 ago, together. And she's also learned how to make baskets.
Yeah, she taught me that you don't do it right, you just take it out. A lot of hard lessons, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe would say, just keep going, you'll get better. But Kathy was like, no, take it out, try again.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Did the tribe ever make sales out of cedar, you know, for the canoes?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of things, but I don't think they ever did.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. This
Yes.
was amazing.
Thank you. And you're welcome to text me whenever you want. Thank you, everybody on Zoom.